dog, I saw a cat, I saw a deer, I saw a wild boar.
Wow.
I saw a raccoon. Oh yeah. Oh, look at all these dead animals I've seen.
Okay, share it out.
Okay, thank you. Pretty sure that it works. Do you guys want to share it out so your friends can click on it? Why is Kristen calling me? I'm about to be on TV.
1 minute.
Thank you.
So you didn't tag me in it.
I didn't tag anyone in it. It's on my Facebook page. And then all they have to do is click that link right there. And that brings them to the live
Wait,
show.
on your show? On your Facebook?
Mm-hmm, it's on mine. You can just share it, and if they click the link, it brings them. I look weird in that photo.
You look really fucking smoking hot.
I do?
Dude, yeah, you
I feel
do.
like it doesn't
Believe
look
me.
like me.
Believe me.
Okay.
The other one, you do look like an alien.
I'm gonna feel really weird with my hat on, but okay, I've never done this before.
This is, oh, wait a minute. Is this going on like YouTube after?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They'll edit
Come
it.
to...
It'll be on YouTube for everyone to watch, and then they'll edit it over the next week, and then your show, it's going to be one composed hour on YouTube at first, then they're going to edit it, and then I'll put your link up.
Oh, I didn't even share it out. Whatever. I'll share it out when it's
My name is Jasmine, and I am a recovering drug addict.
My name is Richie Farrell, AKA the Old White Junkie.
And we are your hosts for Exit Team Nashua.
Our mission is to bring recovery into the living room.
Last year, over 72,000 Americans died of an accidental overdose.
That's almost 200 Americans every single day.
We will bring you guests with real-life experiences with addiction and recovery. Welcome to Exit Team Nashua. Hi, welcome to Exit Team Nashua. My name is Jasmine, and I am your host. As always, it's an honor to be here with you tonight. Exit Team is a show who takes people who have real-life experiences with recovery or any kind of trauma, and we bring it right into your living room to offer you resources and let you know how people have made it through and out of what they've made it out of. You know, we've been switching things up on the show recently, and it's always exciting when we have Catherine on the show.
Over there.
Yep.
Hi.
Yep. So, Kat, so you haven't been on the show in a couple months now. So, for any of our viewers and followers who don't remember you, just give them a rundown of what qualifies you to be on the show.
So I am in recovery. I will be coming up on 4 years clean and sober in May. I'm also a big proponent for mental illness, also anti-bullying. And yeah, I'm glad to be back.
It's always fun to have you on the show.
Thank you.
And so another really cool thing that happens in recovery is you get to watch people come in and blossom and find themselves. And we have known each other for almost 5 years now. Mm-hmm. And this young man right here, we have seen come in, right? We've just kind of like, he just kind of like naturally like came under our wings. And it's just really cool to watch you blossom and come into your own. And so this is Eric.
Hey, I'm Eric. I was actually telling Kat before that we were talking about my hair getting long, and I was like, dude, last time I got a haircut, I didn't even know who Jasmine was. And now here we are. My hair's longer than Kat's. Shit. You know what I'm saying? Life comes at you
Your hair's
fast.
almost longer than mine.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
I just got 6 inches cut.
Yeah, I'm growing
It looks
the
good,
flow.
by the way.
So.
Thank you very much. Shout out to
Yeah.
Cassidy for doing my hair.
Yep.
It looks good.
Cassidy, great person.
She is, and it's a great job. Last time I got my hair cut, Cassidy also cut it, and I was going through like a life crisis. I live with Kat. This was years ago. Me and Kat lived together. I was not a good roommate, by the way, or a good best friend.
It was all right. It was part of the process.
And I cut my hair like up to here, Eric.
Nice. Shout out Cassidy.
Was it that short?
It was really short. Remember the meme that Mason made of me? And I got so, Mason, there was like, do you remember when the memes of the rooster were going around? Okay, well,
The rooster was like it was like very
I had to be
projected
there.
out.
Is it the rooster with the man bun?
So Mason made a meme.
That's my boy.
The rooster with the man, but I'll show it to you after. It literally looks just like the rooster.
I can see it.
So Eric, it's really cool to have you on the show.
Thank you.
And so like one thing that we like to do with the show is like help end stigma. You know what I mean? And so I think it's really cool when we get to have
all different kinds of people on the show because I've had the honor and privilege of like being where you've grown up and like to meet some of your family members.
Yeah.
You know, and so you and I come from very different worlds.
Yeah.
Very different. I've been, yeah. We also
It
went
was
to,
actually funny that
we went to 50 Cent's house.
yeah, we had a grand old time.
Yeah,
in
and we
Connecticut.
met Russell Brand. It was a very exciting day. I met the fam. We went to 50 Cent's house. Yeah.
Oh, in Connecticut.
Yeah, we went to.
Oh, okay, that
50
makes
Cent
sense.
had a mansion that was previously owned by Mike Tyson in Farmington, Connecticut. So it's pretty sweet.
We went there with Arvid.
Yeah.
We were with Arvid.
It's a grand old time. It's
Yeah.
quite the day.
So, just so our viewers just get like have a little bit of idea of who you are and where you came from, like let's talk about pre-addiction. Like, what was life like for you before?
It was pretty normal. I grew up in like a, I guess, full family, you know, mom, dad, brother, sister, middle class. Went through the routine, played sports, played instruments, passed classes in school.
You did?
Some better than others.
See,
but, you
much
know,
different worlds. You and I.
I kind of, you know, did my thing, going through the grades, didn't get in too much trouble, I guess, before, you know, a certain point. And it was nothing really exciting. I was like a child prodigy or anything. It might be now. I'm on TV. So, but, you know, just
You'll always be a
just
prodigy.
just a regular kid, just a CT boy.
Eric is
just-
basically our son.
yeah, it's a tall order. So yeah, I mean, just kind of did my thing.
So there was like, for you, was there like any, so for myself, like, you know, my mom was an active heroin addict. My dad was not predominantly in the picture.
Yeah,
I was
no
subjected
one-
to abuse, to trauma. I was subjected
There's
to a
a
life
turning
of
point.
crime. So like for me, I just became a product of my environment.
Yeah, I think my grandfather, who I never met because he passed like when my dad was a kid, was an alcoholic. But aside from that, like no one in like my direct bloodline has really been like, you know, addicted or alcoholic. Like there was nothing like that I was really around like on the home front, so to speak.
That was my story too.
So like it's not like my parents were like drinking heavily. There wasn't like even a lot of alcohol like in my house as I can remember as a kid, if any. So it was not really like anything that was like around me growing up, I guess, in the house. But you know, I found my way to it. As
Right.
One would.
Which brings us, well, which is bringing me to the point that I was getting at, is that like addiction does not affect just one certain type of person.
Yeah.
You know, like the
Yeah,
three of
for
us at
sure.
this table come from very different backgrounds and very different lifestyles.
And
But here we are.
externally, it looks completely different.
Yeah, and there was no like early life trauma or like any like significant events.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of just like you get to the age like for me it was like freshman year of high school where like some kids in the neighborhood are like smoking pot, and then like you know, you're like, yeah, like let's try it. It's boys being boys, and then next thing you know, it's like, oh well, I got this water bottle that I poured a bunch of stuff from my dad's liquor cabinet into. Let's drink this, and I'm like, let's keep being boys, and then next thing you know. It's getting a little shaky, and then you know certain kids kind of figure out where to draw the line and tone it down a bit, and you know I had that thing clicked off in my head, and I was like, okay, well, what's next? Like, what's coming out next to the table?
So you started
yeah.
like experimenting. I think you had said like around 13 years old.
Yeah,
you
like
started
freshman year of high
experimenting.
school, and it was kind of just like it wasn't anything like super hardcore. It was more so like, oh, like that made me feel good. Like this is something else that's like supposed to be like fun or like make me feel good. It wasn't like to like necessarily like escape any like depression or like it was more so like
Recreational.
yeah, it was definitely like recreational to start.
Did it like how quickly did it become a problem for you, or not quickly? Some people can.
I would say like through high school, a lot of the recreational use, like I stated before, you know, I like managed to like get through my classes and like it didn't like really hold me out. I had like a couple little
All through high school?
Yeah, I had a couple incidents here and there, like the underage drinking tickets, like getting caught in public. I had, you know,
Hold on.
managed to. What's up?
I'm just so sorry. Every state's different. So you get
21 to drink.
You get a ticket.
Well, yeah, yeah. We
can't be
were
drunk in
like
public?
drinking. There were a couple incidents where like drinking in parks and stuff like that.
And they just
the-
give you a
And
ticket.
the police rolled up. Well, it's like you don't get charged as like a misdemeanor or a felony, but like they brought you in and then they have your parents come pick you up
Oh,
at 3
okay.
in the
PC.
morning. And
Okay.
then, yeah, just like
Do they make you pay a fine too?
Yeah, I think so. I
Savage.
forget. I've probably honestly like made like I don't even know if I had a job when like some of these are happening. So I might
Okay.
owe my parents. Sorry about that, Mom. But yeah, like just like stuff like that. And honestly, like it was never anything serious, which was part of what like fueled my God complex, so to speak, or like invincibility, where I was like, this isn't like, I'm good. Like I still like am working a full-time job. Like I haven't gotten a DUI. Like I haven't, I'm not going to like long-term rehabs. I'm not, like under a highway bridge smoking crack. I'm just like drinking. Like that's what's cool to do. That's what everyone's doing. It's legal, maybe not for my age yet, but like I didn't really face any like immediate consequences where like I kind of gave myself like a lot of leeway for it to like snowball, where, as if I had maybe had some stuff like thrown at me a little more intense. I don't know if at the time I would have been, like even cared, because there were little signs here and there where, even like things like, getting arrested for underage drinking, or like blacking out like all the time and like feeling like an idiot, getting kicked out of places and stuff like that. Like it was a lot of like behaviors that like, should have been like a warning sign, but like as long as like I was, doing my thing and like finding ways where I was like, I still got a job, I still got my car, like I still got money in the bank, like who cares, like I didn't like see it as a problem.
I actually have a question. So I have people that have asked me who aren't really familiar with like addiction and recovery, and where do you think you personally, like, where did you kind of deviate from? There's, the people who just do this as like a side effect of growing up, partying, and it's said to be like the college lifestyle. So like, where did that like separate for you? When did you know that that wasn't exactly what was going on? That it was maybe like deeper?
Or like, did you not, maybe you didn't even know at the time, but like now, like looking back at it.
Right.
Yeah, like looking back, like I can see like a lot of patterns, right? Like where it was like a lot of things just like, mostly like in my drinking, where it was like when other people could go out for a couple drinks and stuff like that, like, and just like the way I drank, and when I drank, I'd, want to add other stuff to the mix. It could never be like enough, you know what I'm saying? But even at the time, like when I never like saw anything wrong with it. I like
Did you surround yourself? Because like when you were before Kat had asked you that question, what my mind was thinking is you were like talking about how like other people would go out and do just this, and you would want more, and it's like that's weird because like everyone I surrounded myself with was like let's turn up and keep turning up.
Yeah.
So like I was never the worst out of everyone I was with.
It depended because like the social circle like changes from time to time. Like people come in and come out, I guess. But I was definitely, I guess, on like the higher end of the turn-up spectrum, so to speak.
He was that kid.
And like even in like sneaky ways where like you go out to the bar with like a lot of people and everyone's like out with the intention to get drunk, but not everybody walks into the bar with the sleeve of nips in their pocket as well. So while they're in the, you know what I'm saying? Like they're all, still getting nice and drunk, but I'm going to the bathroom to take a pee and I'm slugging back a nip or two while I'm at it too. So it's like stuff like that. I look back and I'm like, it's a little extreme. It's a bit aggressive, so to speak. So like just really stuff like that. But I guess like the real turning point where I look back on was when I was 23. So in 2016, I had been admitted to the hospital because I had a tummy ache, which is a really bad one, right, during my kind of heyday.
More than a tummy ache.
It turned out I had a acute flare, which is like acute pancreatitis.
And you were 23.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, and they told me,
Most 23-year-olds don't experience that, right?
Yeah, so I was like, okay, you're gonna maybe take those tests again, because no, like, I'm 23, I'm just getting started drinking. I've only been able to buy beer for 2 years, and I got doctors telling me, yeah, you're actually not going to be able to drink again in your life. And if you do continue to drink the way you do, you're going to be dead by 30. And I'm like, yeah, that's going to be a hard no. I'm like, okay, maybe I just won't. Maybe I should have ate a little more before I drank that night, because that's why my stomach got fucked up. So like that's where like the like addict mindset comes in, where I just like immediately like retort to like, okay, like
not even like concerned, like defensive at the doctors.
Yeah, I was like giving him that face, like I don't know about all that, like.
And then we've had this conversation too, where you're like, oh, well, like, maybe I just won't like drink. Maybe I'll just go like through other avenues.
Yeah, well, basically, I mean, it did, like, it hurt a lot. It was the most pain I've ever been to do in my life. And, like, you know, I came out of that, and I was like, all right, I'm just going to, like, smoke weed, maybe, like, you know, mushrooms, you know, they, like, come from the earth. Like, that's cool, do that on weekends. And then, like, give it a couple months, and I'm back at the bar with the sleeve and nips, you know, on a fucking Monday night.
Which brings
can I
up
swear?
a really, we're not supposed to, because
bleep
this
it out.
does go on. Yes.
That'll be cool. I need put the thing over my mouth so you can't even say what swear word I was saying. But yeah.
Which brings up another really good point, because like there are certain people that like maybe like have a problem with one thing and like they can revert back to these other things. But for
Yeah.
someone such as ourselves at this table, like I can't safely use anything.
Right.
It
Yeah.
always leads down a road. And
Something to get you out of yourself.
Right.
Is
And
never
that's
a
what
good idea.
that's what essentially was. Like I was like the pancreatitis hurt, and I was like, all right, maybe alcohol. But like the thought of just being like completely sober and like not using anything was like so far in the distance. Like I could not even like imagine that. So like immediately start, you know, trying to, as they say, you know, just substitute stuff and like rationalize and like, oh, I'll just drink beer on Mondays, and you know, it just comes back so quick. And that cycle basically went on for like, I think I had to go back to the hospital like 4 times within like 2 years for, you know, the pancreas. And they're like, dude, like, what are you doing? And every time I came out, I would downplay it to my friends and family, because like I didn't want, you know, people to be like, oh, dude, you shouldn't be drinking and stuff like that. So like it got to the point where like I just wouldn't even like say anything about it. Or
So how
I'd
old were
really-
you when you first started realizing, or not even, I guess maybe started realizing, because I know that you went to treatment like 8 times or something before, like
Yeah,
right before.
it's been like
how-
a series of like the IOPs, and they recommend stuff like even
Yeah.
like, and like it just. I always had the plan where like I'm gonna go through this to make my parents think. And
Right. I was
outside
going to say I
people,
work
like,
in treatment, and so many people come to treatment to appease
Yeah.
other people, not because
Yeah.
they feel that they have a problem. Who am I to tell you that you have a problem? This is something that you've got to make your own internal determination about.
Yeah. So like I ran that cycle obviously for a while, and I ended up like living in Florida for a bit.
Ayo.
For like yeah,
Okay.
little,
I went to
little
Florida for
Tampa
a
Bay
little bit too.
action.
Okay.
It was sweet. It wasn't for anything treatment related.
Oh.
I had a job opportunity down there.
Okay.
And you know, between like myself and my parents, we had thought it would be, oh, maybe if I get away from all my friends in Connecticut.
Change the location.
Little did they know, I'll get drunk wherever. Like, that don't matter. Like, I'll find it. However, I was a bit scared, you know, to go through this cycle again down there. So I dialed it back a bit. I had like a new job. I was like, had like a nice place where I was living.
Which like outside things work for a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit, right? It's like that. There's
If
an
I
effect
just had this.
Yeah.
And there's
I'd
an
be
effect
okay.
produced, and then you get that, and you're like so excited for a short period of time, but then you're back to
Yeah.
that state of being where I'm not okay, I'm not okay, I'm not
yeah.
okay.
And then once like things started not really necessarily going my way on certain fronts, and everything wasn't like turning out like how I envisioned it in my head, I was like, well, at least I can still get wild, and that's basically where it brought me. And I managed to stay in Florida for a little over a year, and then kind of hit that rock bottom again, worse than ever. This time it wasn't for the pancreas, it was from doing a bunch of other stuff, basically whatever at this point. Like I was so beaten down by alcohol, and it really like hurt to drink after a while. And like I couldn't just like slam back like booze like I could, but like it was like, okay, well I'll, you know, pop a E-pill on a school or a work night, you know, or, you know, eat Xanax. Xanax is like a alcohol in a pill. I love that because it's like I don't have to worry about drinking a bunch. I can
And a lot
almost-
of people too will be like, well, like it's a prescribed drug.
Yeah.
It's not a dirty drug.
Dude,
There's
it's
like a
legal.
different stigma that comes with Xanax, and so in people's
Yeah.
minds, like they don't think like, but what
Oh, yeah.
really it's all about like the internal condition. What are you
Yep.
doing? Why are you using this? What are you masking
Yep.
with it?
And if you take away like the social perception of what it is, like they're all chemicals at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I
They look
super, like-
chemically similar.
I
alcohol
super
and
like
benzos.
justified that, where like I never like was smoking crack or like shooting heroin, and like those are kind of the ones that like from like a social standpoint, they cast them into like a category of their own. So
That
I'd
was
be
me.
like, well,
I was smoking crack and heroin.
as long as I'm not like, I can't be like a real addict. Like I'm not like, I don't have a needle in my
Yeah.
arm. Like I still got all my teeth. Like, you know what I'm saying? But like the reality was I was like going through just as much pain. Like, and it was just another excuse for me to be like, well, I can do this because like, it's not like those other people, instead of being like, well, when I do this, it still makes me feel like those other people and it's still going to lead me to the same places.
It's crazy for me of what, you know, like looking back on how I used to think about things and like how that translates to now. So, you know, I know like people will, you know, give others a hard time for like coming into a rehab for like just smoking weed, or like, you know, they're drinking like too many Mike's Hard Lemonades or something. And it's like at the end of the day, it has nothing to do with the external. It's all the internal. So like I've also learned, who am I to say that like, because it's not about comparing, it's about, you know, your internal condition, like how not okay are you?
Yeah. I have worked with some people who really struggled because their drug of choice was marijuana.
Yeah.
And they didn't understand like why things are so bad for them because they're just smoking weed. And so it's really hard to have breakthroughs with them because it's like, it's not about the drug.
Right.
It's like, I don't care. People use food to mask what's going on. It's about how do we heal you inside so you can be okay.
Yeah.
And the weed they're putting out these days might as well be crack because the stuff is strong. It's not a Grandpa's Reggie from under the, you know, brick packaging. Like the stuff, taking like a fat dab, dude. You might as well.
Not to mention that, like, you know, alcohol is legal.
Yeah, it's
And
super
marijuana
like.
pretty much is legal now.
It might as well be. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
And prescriptions.
So
in a way,
we were in Boston, right? And we were just like walking down the road, and like people were like rolling joints and like smoking joints, and I was like, this is so weird because I'm from New Hampshire and we don't just like smoke.
Yeah, I
weed on
seen
the
one of
sidewalk, but
the
we do
dispensaries
it
in Boston. There's cops outside directing traffic. They're like, yeah, you're getting this line if you're getting Kush, and you're getting this line if you're getting sour. Like, you're a cop. You're telling people to go in this line to buy weed. What year is this?
The world has drastically changed. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So like the $1 million question for anyone suffering or anyone that's watching and their loved one suffering, what shifted inside of you?
Well, I mean, kind of like touching back on what you're just saying, like that's how it always was for like previous treatments and like IOPs and like detoxes and stuff, where like I would be surrounded by people that were using like harder drugs and less like socially acceptable ones. So I'd basically just like put myself on a pedestal immediately, where I was like, okay, like this kid was homeless in the gutter, like, you know, shooting dirty blood into, like, doing all this, that, and the third, and I'm like, I'm good. Like, I mean, like, maybe I'll have to figure something out when I get to that point, but I just, like, had a tummy ache from drinking. Like, I'll be all right. Like, I'll just drink a little less next time. And then it was just, like, the same. But, like, the way my mind works is
clients in treatment.
Every time, like, I still, like, make those excuses, and it's actually, like, I think I mean, this is like my first time this year that I actually went through like a thorough like treatment, like residential. I was done like.
You did an entire continuum.
Yeah.
Which I know that people out there like to say like the treatment industry is in it for money, but I truly believe in the continuum. I believe it works for people. I see it work for so many people.
Yeah.
For me, it was sober living added on to what I initially done.
You did PHP, IOP, sober living.
Because it's long term.
Right. And you need that. You need that time for your brain to heal, your heart to heal,
integrating
your
back
soul.
into the community. It's not like, you know, you're institutionalized and then you're just cut free.
Yeah, it was basically like all these little like IOPs and stuff like that, like don't give you like the time that like to like connect with other people and like build those relationships. Like by the time I got out of like the long-term treatment this time, it was like that was my world. You know, I've built so many like good friendships with people that were like fighting the same disease as me, trying to reach the same goal, and it wasn't like oh, well, this dude came from this background and he was doing these drugs, so like I'm different. It was like, no, we landed in the same house for a reason, because, you know, we're going through the same stuff.
You
and
started
like,
to take it as like your reality.
Yeah,
As,
and
like,
I think mixed with the fact that it was a little less like alcohol based too, that was kind of like a wake up call where it's like, dude, like if it's not one thing, then it's something else.
Yeah.
And if I keep going through that cycle, then I'm gonna have a needle in my arm and a crack pipe in my mouth. It's just like the way the things were snowballing. So like I don't really know, like something just kind of went off in my head. I was beaten down far enough, and I like decided to like actually take it serious and like actually, you know, stop trying to put together little plans for when I get out, like how I'm going to be able to do it.
You
right
just like
next
let
time.
someone else do it for you.
Yeah, and like people that have like
So it
been
sounded like
through
you
it.
surrendered.
Yeah, essentially, yes. That's exactly what happened.
Woo!
Good.
Yeah, so I was just like, all right, like.
You know what's really cool that I was thinking about? Well, first of all, when you were talking, I was like thinking about how rocking our recovery community is here
Yeah.
in like the greater Nashua area. And then I was also thinking about how cool it is, because I don't even know if you're aware of this, but you're someone that's actually helped me tremendously over the last year.
I appreciate that.
And so like pride and ego comes into play sometimes, and sometimes I'll be like, well, I have like 3.5 years sober, which isn't even that long of a time. I'm like still in my infancy stages, but like I
Yeah.
feel like I can't like reach out for help or tell people that I'm struggling or like things like that. And like you've literally come to my house and dragged me out of my house. You've literally come to my house and checked on me. Made sure that I'm okay. And like
Yeah.
you would showed up and like you'd come over and check on me every day on like in a time in my recovery where I wasn't doing okay.
Yeah.
You know, and so like time means nothing.
Yeah, for
It
sure.
really doesn't. And I appreciate you a lot. And I'm really grateful that like you came to our recovery community, because I don't know where I would be without our friendship, especially
Yeah, for
when
sure.
it was so rocky for me there.
Yeah, and like I think that's like a blessing in itself, because the only reason I came to Nashua is because I was driving up the 95 with my dad, calling places off our insurance list, like what place, and like for whatever reason there was a place in Nashua that had like a room for me, and like we didn't know, like we talked to them on the phone and they're like, yeah, come on down, it's gonna be great, but like every recovery place, you know,
Right.
every treatment center is pitching the same spiel because they want to fill the bed or whatever case there is. But the place I ended up going is, I don't even know if I'm going to say it, but if you want to know, you know, message me. But
You can say it if you want.
yeah,
It doesn't-
so I already said I'm not gonna. But
I just I don't know, you had a good experience
great,
there.
yeah, I had a great house, if so to speak, at Gatehouse, and and yeah, like it was. Now I completely forgot what I was gonna say. Okay, so it was just like a gamble, and it ended up being in a place where like there are like a lot of young kids trying to recover. Like another problem I've had in the past is like a lot of like the community where I grew up, and like I had been pushed into the direction of sobriety and going to meetings and stuff like that. Like I would like go to an AA meeting and I'd like walk into a room and it'd be like a bunch of like dudes with gray beards like drinking coffee, and like I was like, this isn't like my time. Like
You can find that
let my
connection.
hair get, but
Yeah.
like at the time, like now I can see it, and like now I can go into like a meeting where it's like people that are twice my age, all of them, and I can learn how I like to identify. But like that kind of like came through getting comfortable seeing other people my age do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like what Nashua has given me, because like once I was surrounded by not just like people of like the first house I was in, I was like the second oldest person in the house, and I was 26 years old, which like I don't feel that old, I don't act that old, but like I was like, damn, like all these kids here are like 19 and 20 and 21, like all the kids live in my house. And I was like, wow, like there are like young people like being put in these residential places, like trying to get long-term treatment. And I never really saw that, like where I was first pushed into, you know, recovery and treatment and stuff like that. So like I brushed it away because I was like, yeah, give me 30 years, you know, and if you give me another 30 years, I would, you know, not have been there probably, so to speak. Or, you know, it's so seeing all that, and like there's a ton of treatment centers and like sober houses in Nashua, so you're bound to like run into, you know, kids that you know, I identify with everyone just from the base level of like sharing the same disease and achieving the same goal. But like the more time I spend around, I end up making like connections with people that like, even if like we weren't in this treatment stuff together, like we probably would have been friends. Like there's common interests, like there's stuff we like doing that has like nothing to do with recovery. We just don't drink when we do it, you know? And like that is something I haven't seen, you know, where I'm from. And I hear people say it all the time because people come from all over the country to Nashua and they say the same thing. So I don't think it's just like one or two people that feel that way. I think it's like a lot of people that are like, damn, like you have no excuse not to recover. You have no excuse to not go to 4 meetings a day if you want to. Just walking down Main Street, like it's everywhere. It's wild, you know, so.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in with us. If you have any questions for Catherine, her email is up on the screen. Check Eric out on Facebook. And if you haven't done so already, please go follow us on I Am a Heroin Addict and go ahead and give it a little like. Eric, thank you for coming on the show. It was a great show. It flew by. And as always, thank you all for joining us.
Yeah.
My name is Jasmine, and I am a recovering drug addict.
My name is Richie Farrell, AKA the Old White Junkie.
And we are your hosts for Exit Team Nashua.
Our mission is to bring recovery into the living room.
Last year, over 72,000 Americans died of an accidental overdose.
That's almost 200 Americans every single day.
We will bring you guests with real-life experiences with addiction and recovery. Welcome to Exit Team Nashua.
You look orange.
Hi, welcome to Exit Team Nashua. My name is Jasmine, and I am your host. Exit Team is a show where we take people with real-life experiences with addiction, trauma, and we bring it right into your living room. As always, it's an honor to be here with you and to do the show and share the experience and the time with you. And for myself, it's always an honor to be here with the co-host.
Hello.
For those of you that don't follow us all the time and don't know all the members of Exit Team, Catherine, Kat, we call her Kat, is one of the co-hosts that is on the show periodically. She graces us with her presence, and we're honored to have her on the show tonight. Catherine?
Thank you.
It's an honor to have
weird.
you.
It's weird to have you say Catherine.
I know. Kitty cat meow.
Yeah.
So
Qualify myself.
Yeah, for the viewers that don't know much about you or have never seen you before, just let them know a little bit about yourself. What qualifies you to be here on Exit Team?
So I have been in recovery for almost 4 years. I'm also a proponent for mental health, and so I was gonna do an accent, and I'm just not gonna do it anymore.
Okay, that's
We
good.
appreciate that.
Yeah, okay. She's not laughing at mental health, I promise.
And also, I'm against bullying. So.
And I'm going to make fun of her for this after the show. So Kat is a co-host who is here with us often, who also goes out on the road with me a lot on speaking commitments, and is just really active in advocacy. So it's always an honor to have you on the show. Thank you for being here with us tonight.
Thank you.
And so, dun 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 dun, Dan, drum roll for Danny, which is really cool. Because I love it when I have guests that I don't know.
Mm-hmm. We both don't know.
Yeah, and so I reached out to Dan Cotter. Shout out Dan Cotter, AO. Shout out Blueprint, AO. And I said, Dan, I need someone to come on the show. And literally within like 3 minutes, he texted me your name and number and said, Dan's waiting for you to text him. And Danny has been nothing but a pain in the ass since then.
You told me I wasn't. But I also love Dan Cotter, and I'm kind of his yes guy. So if he tells me something, I take his suggestions for sure.
Yeah, he's a good dude. He came to my work the other day and he brought a beautiful orchid.
Yeah, no, he's a great dude.
It was beautiful. And actually, while we're on the subject, I know that he brought it for someone for their birthday, and that was really kind of him. And I'm not upset about that, but I'm upset that I didn't get one and I want one. Just saying.
It's always a makeup. There's a good chance he'll come, you know.
Yeah.
After he sees us, he'll be in.
So what qualifies you to be on the show?
I'm a drug addict.
What? Hold on, did I read?
Welcome.
I'm an alcoholic too.
Wow.
Just as bad, actually. Maybe worse of an alcoholic, but a longer drug addict.
Do you suffer from mental illness as well?
Not that I know of, but I'm pretty sure that I could be diagnosed if I was willing to go in somewhere.
Yeah. Okay, all right, fantastic. Cool. So I read that you're from San Diego. Is that where you were
Yes.
born?
Yeah, Escondido. It's a suburb of San Diego. Smaller town, but nice area. I only lived there until I was like 9 years old. So I've been in Milford area now, this area for
How did you end up all the way
On the
across
East
country?
Coast.
Yeah, my parents are both from Lowell, so they moved out there in the early 80s. I was born and then came back to be around family. So
What was childhood like for you?
childhood was good for me. I mean, I had both my parents were great. I did run into some childhood trauma, but it wasn't because of them. Like, they weren't alcoholic, they weren't addicts. They wanted the best for me and my brother. They did the best they could. Both hardworking people. It was just other people in
Life
my life. Yeah,
circumstances.
exactly.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So childhood trauma. You moved at the age of 9 out here. Was there like a disconnect at all that happened in your life, like being uprooted from your life at 9 to come out here?
That That really didn't bother me that
didn't?
much, to be honest. No, I was glad to be around family and stuff. And
Your whole family's over here on the East Coast
yeah,
primarily.
Yep.
Okay.
I didn't
'cause-
have any like actual relatives out there. I had like fake aunt and uncles who were like the best people in the world too. I still keep.
Do you
in
still
touch
go to
with.
California?
I haven't been in years. 2011.
I've
I
never
believe.
been to California, but people tell me. I haven't. People tell me I have a West Coast
You should
spirit,
go.
and I don't know what that means, but yeah.
You do, yeah.
Okay,
you're
cool.
Very West Coast.
Okay, I don't know what that means, but all right, cool. So, anyways, where were we?
Moving here.
Okay, so you're moving here, 9 years old, but that was fine. Everything was so. When did you like start experimenting?
I'd actually, I mean, a point that I always have to make, like when I speak, and I don't like to speak in meetings, but asked in commitments, I always, will say yes. I started off as like a sober type of kid. Like I was like sober
Interesting.
gang style. Yeah, I thought of it as like drugs and alcohol. I remember my dad talking about like certain singers and bands like Kurt Cobain or Jim Morrison or like anyone just that abused drugs and went out too early and things like that. And it always had an impact on me, like, what a waste of talent, he would say, and stuff like that. Like, it's a shame that they died so young because of their addiction and stuff. And he was a motocross racer, which I became, and it's a very competitive sport. You have to be very healthy.
Right, in the
all
right state of
that.
mind.
Yeah, so it was like,
Was that out here, like on the East Coast,
Yep.
that you did that?
Yeah, I
Okay.
went to Florida for winters and stuff, but
That's really cool.
yeah, it was fun. But I just looked at it as like training and all that. I couldn't mess up my body. I couldn't mess up my mind. And I basically thought anyone who did it was like a loser. I would like find out my brother was smoking weed and I'd like go kick his ass and like his friends' asses. And like, I'm like, it was just a total different mindset back then. My parents got divorced when I was like 17, and I ended up experimenting at that point is when it really started happening. I had drank before that and stuff a few times, but it was I could have seen it even back then that I was an alcoholic drinker, because it was the few times that I would drink, I'd be like the guy in a coma somewhere, like puking everywhere. It was never like to get a buzz. It was like if I did drink, it was to the point of excess every time.
Did you ever feel like hypocritical if you were in one of those blackouts and you're like, oh my God, I'm like
Oh,
the
absolutely.
person that
I was gonna
swore I
say-
wouldn't be?
Yeah,
Do you think that like
absolutely.
led to like, so I don't know, have you ever heard of dislocation theory?
Yes, my
So-
peers.
Yeah, okay, all right. So Bruce Alexander and all of that. So
Mm-hmm.
like I'm a firm believer in dislocation theory, and so like when you get like trapped in like a belief system, like drugs are bad, and then like you're drinking, like from someone like myself, because I do it all the time still in life, like especially like in my program, I get like trapped in like, well, I must do this, and then if I don't live up to those expectations, I then like shame myself and get disconnected
Yeah.
from my true
It's
self.
it's like you're creating a problem that necessarily wasn't even there in the first place.
Right.
That was there
just due to your
throughout.
mentality.
So I was gonna say
throughout
that-
the addiction, it was like I always looked down on myself, and I hid it the best I could for years. Like, bought a house, had a business, had my kids, tried to take care of them the best I could, make it look good from the outside. I was totally ashamed of it, and I have a brother and what I consider a stepbrother and all that, and that were active and that were out in the open much more than me, and I hid behind them. Like
Yeah.
I made it look okay, and nobody knew I had a problem for years.
I definitely
within my
relate
family.
with having heavy shame.
Mm-hmm.
That was like my main fuel source that I used throughout addiction. I mean, it got to a point where I was just like, I was always alone.
Absolutely.
And it's a really dark place to be.
Yeah, you hide so that people don't see you, really. It's like I wanted to get drugs, go home, and
Yeah.
not be out where anyone's going to know that I'm that
Yeah.
person.
And I also identify with having to put energy forth just so that others, will perceive you a certain way, because that matters so much to you.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was, drinking every day and mixing it with different substances, I would put on makeup and like get dressed and like want to look presentable to like go to the store to get something to like mix it with or whatever, because I needed someone else to tell me that like I was
You look
okay,
alright,
that I it wasn't as bad as I felt.
Okay, so how old? So you were like started drinking at like 17.
I had started drinking before that, but it was
Okay.
around 17, 18 that it was like something I was looking forward to all the time.
Okay.
It
Were you
was,
still in school?
yeah, I graduated early from high school, but it was like my group of friends it was just waiting for the weekend, like where are we partying this weekend type of thing. And as I said, I was always the one who was just trashed, and even with weed, smoking weed and stuff like that. And then around that same age, I don't know if you guys remember like Brass Monkey in Manchester. It used to be a club. I'd like doing coke there and stuff around that age. And it wasn't really until I went down to Florida that I was exposed to harder drugs.
Did you go down there for motocross?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
And it was, broken bones, and then also to stay up driving. So I was either painkillers for broken bones or Adderall. Which
Were
turned
you
into
getting
meth.
prescribed opiates?
Yeah, I remember the first opiates I got prescribed were for mono, and I was
Really?
like bedridden. Yeah, I was bedridden.
That's
I went
so
to Nashua
interesting.
here to St. Joseph's. My mom brought me, and she was like, "This kid's like the biggest baby." I was like literally in the fetal position in her shower. And when she brought me there, they were like, "This is like the worst case of mono ever."
Wow.
So they just gave me painkillers, and that day. I was up like doing all kinds of stuff, and I felt
should have been a
I
sign.
had,
seriously.
yeah, I
it
had
really
the same
is.
type of reaction for opiates.
Most people take
Yeah,
I would
it's
get
great.
energy.
Yeah.
It's weird how good they are.
That's
Yeah,
a sign
I painted
right
my
there.
whole apartment.
Yep.
Yeah, she still talks about that too. My mom talks about like I was up like moving beds around. Like I was like, I feel great.
Yeah. I actually, when I started feeling that for the first time, I remember thinking like, this is what I need to be 24/7. Not just, and I sold it on that. Like,
Yeah,
I was
have
like,
arrived moment.
yeah, and I was like, this is the treatment for my depression that I need. Like, I need opiates every day
Absolutely.
to not feel my depression. I actually like had this conversation with a doctor.
Yep.
Which would be great if we didn't have like that addictive component. It would have been a solution
Right,
for us.
because
but we have the
long-term-
threefold.
Yeah, long
Uh-huh.
term, it's absolutely not going to work.
Right.
It is like I can remember calling my parents too, and I'd be detoxing, and I wouldn't know that's what was going on, and I'd be like super emotional. I'd just be like calling them, like sobbing.
That's why you're not allowed to have phones and detox.
Yeah, seriously. And I had no idea what was going on because I didn't even know that I was addicted to a substance yet. So I'm just like, I didn't know. I'm just sobbing on the phone, like, I don't know what's wrong with me, And they're like, okay, dude.
So I am still a crazy person in sobriety, and I always go back and forth between a keto lifestyle. And whenever I that first week of keto, I'm so emotionally unstable because my body's detoxing from sugar, and I'll be crying and I'll be like, why am I crying right now? And then I'll be like, wait a second, you're withdrawing from sugar, and my emotions are so all over the place.
That's what keto is, no sugar.
Yeah,
I
and you
wasn't sure.
you literally go through withdrawals from
High
it.
fat,
I
low
bet.
sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a lot of stuff we're missing in there, and we don't really need to cover all that. So you got into drugs. You got into drugs pretty bad. What happened? How?
I ended up here.
Anyway, anything just what happened? What got so bad that you didn't? Because that lifestyle serves a purpose until it no longer serves a purpose anymore.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It like she said, it was covering my depression. That was marked basically since the age of 9. I don't think that had anything to do with the move like you asked earlier, but at that age in San Diego, my mom had noticed that in me back then. I think it was just being very uncomfortable with myself, worrying about other people's vision, what they thought of me. It was 100 people could like me, and if that one dude didn't like me, I
all you
listened to-
fixated on.
Exactly, and then I wanted to kill him too. So
I was I still have to remind myself on a daily basis. I try and listen to Wayne Dwyer every day. I try and listen to him because I find so much of my self-worth in who I am wrapped up in what I do. And that's not true. I'm a woman of God. I am perfectly worthy with or without a job. I'm perfectly worthy with or without a boyfriend. I'm perfectly worthy with or without a stable place to live. I am but I find myself so validated by all these outside things all the time that I have to constantly remind myself, no, actually you're a wonderful being without that. You don't need that.
I think that's what makes us addicts, though, is we know those types of things, but it's from the work that we've done.
Yeah.
But before, I didn't know any of that, and
Well,
I didn't
even
know
knowing
that
her still.
I didn't know that it kept me sick. You know what I mean?
And I was just about to say how crazy it is that all of this awareness that you just described about who you are and why you think the things that you think, it's they're all products, at least for me, I'll speak for myself, from working recovery, which is, You know, I like am consistently finding myself saying I feel like I'm in this corny place because I'm just at a place right now where like I'm really grateful that like, you know, I found this thing that saved me from the brinks of death, but like it also gave me so much awareness into who I am, how to be a better person, how to have better relationships, how to like be the person I want to be. And that's literally like where my life is at right now.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Absolutely.
So, how old were you? How long have you been in recovery?
15 months. now.
15 months.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. So what happened 15 months ago that you had like finally ready to like make a change?
My house had started foreclosing like years before from not paying, and I had went through like bankruptcy, all that, trying to catch back up on it, making like double payments, and that only lasted like a few months again until I was like, I can't even make that payment, so I'm just gonna like keep that $3,000 and just get high with it instead of making any payment. Got to the point that like my power was at $2,000 shut off at my house. Just so we ended up renting a different place and just leaving the house that I was, you know, buying at the time or owned. Lived there, and things just got even worse. It was overdoses, you know, DWI, overdose DWI, like, you know, found behind the wheel, overdose with the keys still in the ignition, all that, and then just the absolute agony of detoxing and for the purpose of trying to save my custody of my kids. That was what really did it in the end, was because DCYF was all over us about both my kids. So they were drug testing us, and I didn't realize at the time, but my organs were like actually shutting down. And so I wasn't filtering correctly, and I didn't know that until I went to the detox center that I did, and they did my blood work. But I was going like 5-7 days full detox, like complete kibby out, and not being able to pass drug tests still with like absolutely nothing, like not, you know, nothing at all. And full stomach loads of stomach bile, like constantly from the bad liver and all that. So I just knew that I lost my kids. They were taken. They went to my mom's house and a children's home for my older son. And what really actually got me there was I had broken a needle off in this arm, and I left it in there for like 3 days festering, just like I couldn't even see it. And when I went into the hospital, it was the same nurse who had seen me overdose a few times, and you know, basically it was just like, you know, told me how to get to treatment and all that. And my mom actually brought me to the fire station in Nashua, went to the respite, and then luckily was taken out of the respite up to a rehab center. But it was just being absolutely tired of it. You know, I loved the lifestyle for a long time. I loved Lawrence trips. I loved all that stuff. You know, it was like I couldn't wait. And at the end, it was me like, you know, pulling to exit 39, like the Cracker Barrel, and having like tears coming down my face after going in and stealing a spoon and like not wanting to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And it was like, but I had no solution. I had no knowledge on how to get help. And I didn't want that shame. I didn't want to give up because I didn't want people to know what I was doing.
There's a quote, and I don't know if I'm going to say it correctly, but it's like change happens when the fear of staying the same is greater than the fear of basically of change, I think.
I know the quote, and I'm trying
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I think of it as like a seesaw. And it's like eventually, you know, you keep on adding and adding and adding and adding and adding, and eventually it's like the cons are outweighing the pros, and it's like it no longer is the experience that you once had.
It had been like that for a long time too, and it was just absolutely miserable for years. It was just I couldn't go to work. Like my wife at the time was a stay-at-home mother with the kids, and I was supporting both of us, and it was like I needed that job. I couldn't there was years that I could go in dope sick and manage, but at the end my habit got so bad that it was like I was missing days because of it. I was working 2 jobs, and it was just absolutely miserable. I just knew no other way. Like I didn't know how to get out of it myself.
So when you got into recovery, what were you hoping for?
I mean, originally I went to the respite and I thought,
I just think that's such a cool story because you need to go to the respites and show them, especially now that
I actually just did the other day.
I love that
Yeah.
because I have friends that work in the respite, and it's sometimes very discouraging because like no one even stays and all
Yep.
these things. And as you're talking, I'm just sitting here looking at you, and I'm overwhelmed with happiness because how cool is it that like you're a product of success from that?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I got to thank the fire station literally last week because probably one of my best friends in this whole thing had relapsed, and so we couldn't get him in through Manchester, so we came to Nashua, and I thanked them I was like, I don't know if you guys remember me, which I don't even think it was the same firefighters, but they said we don't ever hear that. Like we either see the same person keep coming back and it feels like we're not helping, or we'll just never see them again and wonder are they gone or are they doing well? But they said that they very rarely get thanks, and so that was awesome to do. And then dropped him off some stuff at it's like a different building than I was in at the time. It's like actually a house now.
Yeah, the respite on Van Buren.
Yeah. So I dropped him off some stuff there, and the guy who came outside, I talked to him for a little bit and said, you basically saved my life. But my plan was to go there. I was like, 5-7 days, I'm going to be right back out and pick up, fix the problem with my house, get that back on track, be a great dad, husband at the time, all these things. And it became evident very quickly that was not going to happen. And I remember getting pissed because I don't know if I should say that or not. There was a woman who came in from the treatment center I went to with business cards, and she was asking me to see. I had private insurance and all that, but seeing, you should come up here. And I'm like, no, I'm going to be here for a week, and I'm going to go back out and do my own thing. And she's like, let me know how that works out for you, dude. And I went back to my bed super spiteful, and thought about it for a minute, and I'm like, she's right. Like, I've tried it for a week on my couch, and it never works out 100 times, So
We have a question.
Yeah.
Randy. Shout out to Randy. Ayo, Randy. Randy wants to know what you do for work now.
I'm a machinist.
Okay.
Yep. My father owned machine shops as a kid.
Okay.
And I just would help, make production parts and things like that. And once I got out of high school and needed a job, it was kind of what I knew how to do. So I've been doing it for a long time now.
That's amazing because 15 months ago you were in Lawrence. You had a broken needle in your arm, begging for help at the respite center.
Yep.
And now you're showing up to work every day and you're a healthy person. And yeah that's awesome.
It's great. I love Randy. I know who that is.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh. That's really cool. Sorry before I interrupted that. It's just that this question had been up on the prompter
that's
for a
awesome.
while, so I wanted to ask you we were talking about something before I rudely interrupted.
Oh, it's all good. It was just the treatment centers, but
Okay.
I remember, from there it turned into long-term treatment.
So you went to long-term treatment.
Yeah.
Seems to be a theme tonight.
Yep. It
Treatment
was a
works.
place located in
Same.
Derry, but
Okay.
I went there for a couple
right.
of months, and everything just kept working out for me. And throughout this whole thing, I always had a faith in a higher power, but it wasn't until, being shown clear signs that things worked out to my advantage that I realized that the power behind the whole thing. It was only oh man, I'm 13 years old and I just got my girlfriend pregnant. God help me through this one. There was only things like that. It wasn't ever praying to him to be shown how to be a better person and all that. And I learned that up there. And so it was
No, it's really cool. So I was listening to a podcast the other day. Kat, explain what's a fruit you've never tried?
kumquat.
Have you tried a kumquat? Okay, something else, another fruit. Or
That I've
vegetable.
never tried?
Or a vegetable.
Ah man, I don't know. You're stomping me here. Is this what it's about? You're trying to stomp me?
I'm getting to something. I just need you to
Another
tell me something.
fruit?
Anything, something.
Man.
That you haven't tried.
Sushi, do you eat sushi? You
No,
must.
I don't really like sushi.
Oh, damn it.
Lobster?
Okay.
I don't like lobster either, no.
Okay, let's pretend you've never ate an orange.
I've never ate an orange.
Describe to Danny how an orange tastes. Go.
It is citrusy. It's very
Can you taste it?
it's very
No.
refreshing.
Can you taste it?
Yeah.
Like
No,
Is that what you want me
lime,
to say? I don't know.
lemon. It's kind of sweet.
I don't like the white stuff in the oranges,
So Kat, she's trying to describe, but you can't taste it, right?
No, you
And
have
so in
no
this
idea.
podcast, they were like, you can try and get someone to taste that, but they don't know. And they were like, that's like faith. So I can tell you to have faith and I can tell you to have faith, but you don't know faith is real until you've experienced it yourself.
Right.
And so like what we need to have is like these experiences, and I can like tell you that, well, have faith, that's going to work out. Well, you don't actually know that until you just do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden everything works out. So like you didn't know what faith was, but you just did it. And now you have faith and everything worked out.
Yeah. I always admired my grandparents because they were Catholics, but I don't think I ever heard them talk about it. I just knew that they went to church every week and that their life was something that I wanted. Like they were great role models in my life. They never pushed it on anybody or anything, but I always respected that about them. So I'm glad that I have a connection with my higher power now, and it's definitely saved me, because it was like once I was up there for 21 days out of the 28, and I got kicked out for my insurance, and then it was like everything worked out to go 2 months to the other place, and then I'm at Jonathan Gerson's house and Dan Cotter's house now. I've been there for a year.
Let's give it a shout out. What is it?
Into Action Sober Living in Manchester. Best
Shout
house out there.
Woo! And if you want to know about Into Action Sober Living, Danny's information is right up on the screen. Check him out on Facebook. He's wild. He put his phone number up there.
Hit me up.
Or email him.
Recovery purposes.
Yeah, only.
I used to put my phone number up there, and I'm just going to tell you, I started getting things I didn't want.
You're a girl.
I
though.
no
They're not
longer
gonna do
put
that
my
to
phone
me.
number up on the
They better
prompter.
not. I'm gonna send them to you if I do. You're the one who got me into this.
All right, cool. So yeah, you and everything just started like working out, and so nothing worked out the way you wanted to when you first got sober,
Nope.
but things are pretty cool today.
Yeah, I mean everything. There was nothing I could do, but it's like everything that I was worried about, the reasons I didn't go to treatment have all, everything worked out perfect. It really did. And, my kids are healthy and happy. Got my license back after a couple of DWIs. Just everything's
Really
fallen
cool.
into place that I was like, I'll never get that back. You know what I mean? So it's just great to be alive today.
Awesome. For anyone that's watching and struggling, what do you have to say to them?
Don't be afraid of the shame behind it. Don't be worried about what other people think. The amount of support that I got once I went through all this was incredible. Like it was the people that I thought would judge me the hardest were the ones who came through and have shown me the most support. And so I think that's like the biggest thing, as we talked about earlier, is like people just need to not be scared and just go for help.
You want to take us out in a British accent?
Well, as you can see, I'm definitely American, but thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And Godspeed.